Dawson's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here, and welcome to a new series of videos that's kind of inspired by a while back I did the best and the worst of the Saban brands and Bandai America toy eras, and I got some recommendation to do some for similar ones, so I'm going to be doing that for Disney and Saban over the next couple weeks, no, probably next few weeks, maybe even a month or two, depending on, when other videos crop up, but just expect these videos to pop up every now and then. We are going to start with this video, which is the best of the Disney era. We're going to follow it up with the worst of, and then I think I'm going to do a ranked video for the Disney seasons, and then, the same treatment for the original Recipe Saban era. But let's go ahead and get started. As I said, this is going to be the one for the top 5 best things in the Disney era Power Rangers. Coming in at number 5 for me is the music. Now, it's not exactly perfect, and I know a lot of people's ideal era of music for PR is the original Rosserman, I combined his name, Ron Wasserman, hashtag Rosserman, era of music for, MMPR through In Space roughly, and there is some really great stuff out of that I absolutely love, but my personal favorite was this era. Yes, they did often use some royalty-free tracks, but for the most part, most of the seasons did have a unique score that set the tone for each series that really just, went with the vibe of it, which I think is something we're missing with the Neo Saban era and now Hasbro a little bit, where we either have kind of something generic or mainly just rehashes of Go-Go Power Rangers, which I've talked about on numerous occasions, I think doesn't help each season have its own identity, whereas I feel the Disney era did a pretty solid job of having a score that fit its general vibe. Mystic Forces is one of my favorites. I think it really had that epic, magical feel. SPDs, I think, was fantastic for conveying its vibe. Even Ninja Storm had that extreme, dun 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 dun, extreme. And I really just liked all of those, and I preferred that style because, like I said, having an identity tied to each series was important to me, and there's some really cool background music out of those for me personally, and I wish we could get back to that. Coming in at number 4 is Jetix in general. This is basically like promos as well, but basically, Jetix was a really solid thing for PR. Disney was kind of a weird era for PR because they weren't trying to go out of their way to market it or make it crazy. It was just kind of a, punch in, punch out type of deal, I felt, in terms of marketing, but it was still pretty solid for the lion's share of it. Obviously, near the end, they were just trying to get rid of it. But during the main part of when they owned PR, Jetix was a hugely great thing, in my opinion, for it. PR was on a ton, both reruns of current episodes and the Jetix classic episodes. I mean, I rewatched several series when they would air them at various pretty consistent times. They had a ton of event marathons going on with it. They did a really good job with promos, both for like the new season trailers. Early on we would get those individual character trailers, and also we would get like events for Six Rangers and stuff. And it just felt like it had a pretty solid premise in terms of network TV, as opposed to now where it just airs an episode and then you can catch reruns like at 6 in the morning. By the way, before I get to the next number, I just want to apologize again, as I have been. I'm sorry for apologizing, but I'm going to apologize that there's not going to be any visual aids in this Vizio TV review. This video to avoid, the copyright stuff from Hasbro. Again, hopefully they slow down at some point, but hopefully I can entertain you enough. Probably not, but let's give it a shot. Coming in at number 3 is the fight choreography. In my opinion, the fight choreography was at its best during this era. Like, obviously there were some pretty good civilian fights during the original era because they often hired people that knew how to do martial arts. But I honestly just overall preferred the Disney era fight choreography. I mean, sure, you had a lot of this during civilian fights, so they would hide their face, like they'd be like, so they could hide, that it was a stunt person. But there was some really awesome looking choreography, and especially in suit, I feel that there was just something about the Disney era fights that made the Power Rangers actually feel powerful. Stop trying to copy our American powerful Rangers. There was just something about the acrobatics, the explosions, the lasers, the slashes, like, it just felt more epic, more powerful, like I said. I mean, there was definitely some memeing about the over explosions, and they did go a bit too far, but that never bothered me too much. I just felt they generally felt more exciting, more powerful, and bigger in general, and I really liked it. Even the wire fu stuff, I was totes fine with it. Sorry, I just said totes. Coming in at number 2 is the writing / dialogue for the series. I mean, PR dialogue in any era is not perfect. Sometimes you'll get like a really nice even keel, sometimes you'll have really cheesy or clunky, and sometimes you'll have great stuff. And Disney era's writing wasn't perfect, but I'm mainly talking about in terms of writing, I mean, yes, I did like the plots, but I'm kind of more so talking about day-to-day conversations and general stuff like that. Whereas it felt a little more natural. Like, this is gonna come off as a really weird example, but like in Ninja Storm when they would use words like poser and stuff like that, or like, you know, call each other dude, and it's a little bit generic, especially of that era, like almost like, hey, what are the street youth saying on the streets? The good people of the streets. But in general, I felt that the dialogue felt more real, more natural, like they were a little bit more so trying to update it to the way kids would relate, even if it did come across a little bit like, how are you doing, my fellow youths? But I just kind of appreciated that. And I also appreciated that within that, the characters themselves felt more natural and real. And by that I mean often dialogue from the Saban era Rangers, both in Original Recipe and Neo Saban, can feel a little clunky and unnatural, where they're trying so hard to sell you on the fact that they're good people, that stuff they would say, no normal human being would say. And I like that the writing for the characters inherently made them feel more like they were an actual person you would talk to, but also made them feel a bit more like flawed, normal people and characters, and I appreciated that. Before we get to number one, I wanted to mention something as well that's going to kind of be on both the best lists for Saban and Disney, spoiler alert for that, but is original US creations. Both eras had them. I feel like Disney might have had more, but I'm talking about stuff like, you know, bikes, battleizers, anything that was basically Bandai exclusive toys that wound up being in the show. I always appreciated that. It gave us our own unique voice. I always liked to see that, to have Power Rangers separate its own identity. But in particular, we had probably one of, if not my favorite, US Power Rangers creation thing, which was the Spirit Rangers in Power Rangers Jungle Fury, because Geki Ranger suits are one of my favorites. I adore Jungle Fury and Geki Ranger, and the idea of getting these suits was so exciting. Even though we only got the super ones at the end, that was still super cool, and it made the toy line super exciting just to see these new figures when you weren't expecting it. But then the fact that they actually showed up in the show, please, Lightning Collection figures someday, Hasbro. Okay, coming in at number one for me personally is the Adaptation Style. By this I mean like the way that they translated the Sentai footage and story and made it their own. Should be pretty obvious. I think in general my number one favorite Adaptation Style is just not giving a hoot what the Sentai did. Just, you know, if you need to throw it away, who cares? Just make your own story. This footage doesn't fit, film your own. Literally everyone else films their own TV show. But I think Disney had the smartest adaptation style, where in most cases, except for like, I think Dino Thunder and RPM kind of just threw the playbook away. Like, if the footage fit what they needed to happen, great. If not, we gotta film our own, that's fine too. But I think in general, for most seasons, Ninja Storm, SPD, Mystic Force, to a degree Overdrive, Jungle Fury as well, they kind of took the loose outline of what the Sentai did, but then colored it in differently, obviously the same in some places, but I think that gave them a really solid foundation where they weren't scrambling too much to figure out how to fit things that they wanted to do. So they kind of had a general roadmap. They could make broad strokes work in terms of the footage matching their story, but they could also give it their own unique tone and style. And I think that worked pretty well, especially for back then when we were only a year behind. I think that was the smartest and most efficient, and I think that was just, you know, beneficial to everybody, and I really like that adaptation style. Like I said, even though my personal favorite is just kind of going with your own story, I did like that way, and oftentimes I would really appreciate the changes that made it unique, because if you watch something like Deca Ranger and SPD, you can see the similarities, but then also where they deviate and where SPD got its own unique voice. So I really appreciated that, and I think it was just the smartest way to go. So anyway, that is my personal top 5 favorite things about the Disney era of Power Rangers. What are your top 5 favorite things about that era? Let me know in the comments as per usual. Sorry, I said as per usual. Next up, whenever the post will be the top 5 worst things about the era, as I said, and then I'll probably do a ranking video. Yes, this is still sealed because these are on Netflix. So, you know, take the easy way out. I always do. It's so easy. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell with notifications for all my videos. Until next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.